is breaking news on 2 News.
Thanks for joining us for 2 News at 9 on KJazz. We start with breaking news tonight out of Midvale, where at least one person is dead after what police are calling a domestic violence homicide. Jeremy Harris is live on the scene. And Jeremy, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Mallory, this is really a difficult situation here in Midvale. We've confirmed with police tonight that a 41-year-old woman has been killed. Her 41-year-old husband is seriously injured and in police custody. And it happened here at a home on Settlement Circle. That's at about 8510 South and 150 West in Midvale. It's just to the south of Copperview Elementary School. Now, what we've learned from Unified Police tonight is that at about 6 o'clock, some neighbors called police reporting that 2 children had come running out of a home saying that their father had attacked their mother. When police got here, they were able to go inside of the house. They found that woman. She was extremely critically injured and passed away. And the father was also seriously injured, but police tonight believe his wounds were self-inflicted. We also learned from police that a 7-year-old girl was injured during this attack. She apparently had a cut on her hand and was taken to the hospital, but she is expected to be okay. The investigation portion of this really is just starting, and investigators expect to be here for several hours into the early morning as they process the house. They're not really sure what led up to this, but they are calling this a domestic violence homicide, and they believe that the husband was responsible for the wife's death. But again, all of that is under investigation, though they are telling us tonight that the husband, a 41-year-old male who's not yet been identified, is at the hospital and is in police custody. We're working to get the very latest on this story, and we'll bring it to you on 2 News at 10 o'clock. For now, reporting live in Midvale, Jeremy Harris, 2 News.
Oh, some of those details hard to hear. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for your reporting. Right, we do need to switch things up and talk about the weather. It was a really pretty day today, Chase. A little chilly out there, but the sun was shining. It was a nice fall day.
Yeah, cool in the shade or cool in the morning, but by the afternoon, pretty pleasant. Still a few degrees below normal here in Salt Lake at 54 degrees. 54, though, in Logan, 50 in Provo. Vernal, kind of the cool spot at 49. Notice St. George at 73 degrees. And there's some 60s out to our west, maybe a sign of things to come our way. Right now, though, with the clear skies and the sunset a few hours ago, we've dropped into the upper 30s and low 40s along the Wasatch Front. Now, tomorrow morning won't be as cold. Will likely be in the 30s, so you definitely need that coat in the morning, but you might ditch it by the afternoon as we get very close to 60 degrees, sunny weather and light winds for your Thursday. I'll let you know when temperatures will climb above average. How long this could last, we'll break it all down coming up in just a few more minutes.
Okay, sounds good, Chase. The buzz today across the state all about basketball, and tonight lots of chatter among fans on the surprising sale of the Utah Jazz. They're on to the next chapter, and Gail Miller says the majority interest in the Jazz being sold to Ryan and Ashley Smith. You can see there they had a press conference earlier today announcing that. Ryan is the CEO of the Provo-based company Qualtrics, and here's what fans are saying.
We could see them making some moves, and having a young, spunky guy in that position could really make some big moves for the Jazz.
What's better?
Young money.
About Ryan Smith?
Young money's good. Innovation's good. Just new's good.
Fresh eyes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Young money's good. Okay, included in the sale is the arena, the Salt Lake City Stars, and management of the Salt Lake Bees. ESPN reports it's nearly a $1.7 billion transaction, but exact terms have not been disclosed just yet. And the deal, it is still subject to approval from the NBA Board of Governors. Larry Miller wrote in his book Driven that he purchased a 50% interest in the team back in 1985 for $9.5 million. A year later, he bought the remaining stake in the team for $17.3 million. Well, today his family again plans to sell that team for over $1.6 billion. Hefty price tag, but it kind of falls in the middle of the road compared to recent NBA sales. Last year, the Brooklyn Nets sold for $2.35 billion. That's the highest in NBA history. The Rockets sold for $2.2 billion. In 2015, the Hawks sold for $850 million, and the Clippers sold back in 2014 for $2 billion. All I know, that's a lot of money. All right, if Ryan Smith is approved by the NBA, he would become one of the youngest team owners ever at age 42. Now, Smith made his fortune in the tech industry, but his strength is really in sales. Kyle Harvey caught up with a close friend that Smith still shares office space with to talk about that Ryan Smith that he knew before all of this massive success.
The secret sauce, I think, to every great entrepreneur on the planet is coming up in really humble beginnings. And I think Ryan, anything that he ever wanted in his life, he had to go work for it.
Real estate developer David Hunter is a longtime friend of Smith's. The two met when Smith was about 21. The two shared an office on State Street in Orem.
One of our buddies, Rick Slade, had a business called Home Classified Ads, and he's trying to get people to get out of the yellow pages and move onto the internet. And Ryan was his one and only sales guy on that sales force.
The office space at the Troon building was packed with would-be success stories.
Todd Peterson was in that office from Vivint, Jeff Curl, the Skull Candy and Stance guy, James Clark from Clark Capital, who's also, he's done some big things in the Valley.
Even in that crowd, Smith stood out.
He was that kid that you knew that wouldn't be selling home classified ads for very long.
Once Qualtrics started, Hunter remembers Smith turning heads.
Started hearing about the deals they were cutting and the companies that were getting involved with them and these Fortune 500 companies that Ryan was landing.
Now, many of the same guys from the old Troon office share a different space.
So this spot right here, all the German executives from SAP
That's right there. That's where the deal went down, was in there. Yep.
Last year, Smith inking an $8 billion deal to sell Qualtrics.
So you think that he's going to get in there and win?
Instantly. He is going to throw caution to the wind to do whatever it takes to build a lasting winning franchise.
I'm Kyle Harvey, 2 News.
Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall took to Twitter to respond to the news, saying the Miller family gave Utah a generation of camaraderie, fandom, and joy when they brought us the Utah Jazz. Thank you, Miller family, for the many seasons of competition and excitement you've gifted our city and state, and welcome Ryan Smith. Make sure you stay with us for updates on this sale of the Jazz. You can also check for those updates on KUTV.com or on our 2 News mobile app. Coronavirus claiming the life of 10 more Utahns today, bringing the death toll in our state to 588. State health officials also announced 1,500 more cases. The state's infection rate, it is just below 18%. 299 Utahns are being treated for the virus in hospitals around the state, and 117 of those patients are in the ICU. More than 70% of all of our ICU beds are occupied with COVID-19 patients. The state is reaching out in new ways to people who have lost loved ones to the coronavirus. Michael Locklear has more on this effort to help people grieve and prevent suicide.
It's hard, and a lot of people are in denial, just like they are with any death.
Corey Russo investigates deaths with the medical examiner's office. She's also had a lot of loss in her own life, most recently when someone close died by suicide.
And I did receive a phone call from a suicide specialist here in Utah. This was before I worked here. It was amazing. It just blew my mind that this was happening.
Utah's suicide specialists call families after suicides and drug overdoses.
We just hired 2 people to help us make these phone calls.
They're now expanding to reach out after coronavirus deaths.
Now we're bringing them on board. They should start making calls hopefully next week.
The goal, to avoid even more grief, like substance abuse, depression, or suicide.
Connecting them to resources that can help them carry this grief in a maybe slightly better, healthier way is really important.
It's a check-in at a time when many are feeling disconnected and resources are harder to find.
When they asked, is anyone in your family, considering or has talked about or threatened suicide, would you like to email, me to email you some resources? That part really touched me.
Michael Locklear, 2 News.
If you're experiencing a crisis or know someone who is really struggling, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You can see the number right on your screen, 800-273-TALK. You can also text HELLO to 741-741. Coronavirus cases are rising in nearly every state. And in Denver, Colorado, the mayor has decided to reimpose strict restrictions and says if cases don't drop, he could reinstate a stay-at-home order. Businesses that had opened at 50% capacity, they have to drop back down to 25% capacity. And restaurants and churches can't have more than 50 people inside. The mayor said the election won't be impacted, and so far the city schools, they have not been impacted either. We're monitoring the very latest developments as they happen during the coronavirus. We'll of course have more here on air and KUTV.com. Coming up, we are less than a week out from Election Day, and President Trump and Joe Biden, they are extra busy on the campaign trail. What each of them said today about the coronavirus pandemic. Plus, masking up during this pandemic, it's giving your face some extra attention. It's also leading to a higher demand for plastic surgery. Seems a little strange. We'll explain after the break.